So what exactly is a journalist? Well, the name originally comes from journal. So people who wrote for a journal, that originally would have been a magazine or a newspaper way back in the 1800s. But a journalist today is somebody who writes news, writes features, and basically tells people what's going on, whether that be for websites or it be for newspapers or it be for magazines. So what we're talking about is somebody who investigates, asks questions, writes stories, puts them together in a proper package, and actually gives those to somebody to publish. So is there a typical journalist? You'll probably be asking yourself that now, wondering whether you are someone who wants to do the job or who can do the job. Well, the answer is that there are many different journalists with many different interests, but there are several things that you really need to have if you want to be a successful journalist. One is passion. You need to have a passion for what you're doing. And often stories come because you feel strongly about something. Now, we'll talk later on about why you shouldn't put your own opinion in news stories, but having passion at the beginning and getting onto a story because it's something that's bothering you or something that's annoying you is often a really good start. So you need an inquiring mind. You also need the ability to talk to people. Now, some journalists, as it happens, are not that outgoing, but they're just very good at interviewing, for example. So you just need to think about how you're going to approach stories. Will you be able to go up to people that you don't know and start talking to them? Now, if you feel uncomfortable about that, practice makes perfect. So that's part of what we'll cover in this course. We'll talk about how you interview people, how you feel at ease, and how you can make them feel at ease, which will make you feel better and make the job easier. So that's obviously one aspect of it. Now, you also need to be somebody who listens to things, finds out things. The classic journalism tale is, oh, I heard it in the queue at the supermarket. Good journalists listen to everything that's going on around them. They pick up little things and they think, you know what, maybe I could write a story about that. So that's what you want to think about. You need to be reasonably outgoing, I think, but also you need to be quite thick-skinned because, sometimes you're going to have people coming back to you and saying, I don't like what you've written. But as long as you write the story properly, you research it properly, you write it professionally, again, all of the things you're going to learn on this course, then you shouldn't go wrong. And what sort of equipment do you need? Well, actually very little, to be honest. I mean, you need a computer. That can either be a PC or a Mac, it doesn't matter. Obviously, you just have to be familiar with whatever you're using. You can use a laptop or it can be a standalone computer. Now, increasingly, people, of course, are using mobile phones or smartphones. Now, that's fine if you're out and about particularly. You may need to be filing stories, from the street. You may find a story you come across that you have to film and you have to put some text with it. We're going to learn how to do all of that and look at all of that. The other thing you need is a notebook. Now you might think to yourself, maybe I don't need that. All I need is a video recorder and a digital recorder so that I can get pictures and I can get sound. You need the notebook because you know what? One day that recorder probably won't be working. So write notes down all of the time when you're interviewing somebody. It's one of the most important things that you'll have. Now the other thing is, if you can, you need somewhere quiet to write because as a journalist, you're going to often be asked to bash things out very quickly for editors. So if you're a freelancer and you're working from a home office, set it up so that you've got, a comfortable environment, a decent desk, a comfortable chair. All of these things sound obvious, but you know what? If you don't have them, it's going to make your life a lot harder. Now, if you're in an office environment, so you're working full time for a company, you're going to have all of this equipment and everything's going to be set up. So that's all fine. But just make sure that you do have those basics and also remember to have a pen, preferably 2 pens because one of them may not work either. So some of the other qualities that you need as a journalist, we've already talked about having a passion for the job. That's fairly obvious, I suppose. You also need to be tenacious. So if somebody says to you, you're interviewing somebody, you phone them up or you stop them in the street to ask them a question and they go, oh, I'm not talking to you. Well, don't take no for an answer. You do need to have that tenacity where you're going to go back up and say, no, listen, people need to know about this. This is a story, a subject of importance to people. They need to know. So don't, get fobbed off by people. So think about that, the tenacity aspect of it as well. Also, you need to be flexible, because there are going to be times when some news happens, a story happens in the middle of the night. So you may have to go and cover it. You know, if you're working for a publication, they may send you out. If you're a freelancer, you may have contacts who phone you and say, listen, I've heard about this massive car crash. So you need to be willing to do that. It's no good saying, oh, you know, it's nice and warm in the bed today, I think I'm going to stay here. Get out there and get the story. Now, the other thing that you need to be very well aware of if you're a journalist is you've got to be ethical, okay? You really do have to be. You are telling people what's going on. You've got to be honest. You should never ever be putting a spin on a story. So you've got to think about that. When I first started teaching journalism, I always remember a student said to me, oh, it's all about entertainment. It's not about entertainment. It's about telling people what's going on. Entertainment might be gossip, for example. Well, you're not doing that. You're looking at news stories. Now, it may be that you end up working eventually on a gossip type magazine or website or something like that. That's all fine, but you still need to learn the basics.